Alright guys, hello. Today we are going to be drawing an Aggie once again. It is your lovely art teacher, Miss Asia. And so, what I have for you guys in store today is I'm going to be teaching you all how to draw different age groups. A lot of you guys might be fantastic character designers, and sometimes it might be a little hard to figure out how to draw different ages. How do I draw adults? How do I draw little kids? How do I draw babies? How do we draw different people? What's the secret to making sure if I'm drawing an adult, it looks like an adult, and if it's a kid, it looks like a kid? How do I do that? So that's what I'm going to be teaching you guys today. And so, if you want to draw with me, you can check in the description and you'll see the link for Aggie there. Oh, I'm gonna turn my music down. And you can go to Aggie and you can go to start drawing, and you'll see a canvas similar to this pop out, and you can go ahead and start drawing with me. If you want to just sit back, that's fine as well. And at the end, I will put up the link to my final drawing for you guys to follow along with. So I think we're ready to get started. So as you see on my screen, I have these little two characters at the bottom left corner. I'm going to show you, make this a little bigger. So these are some characters I drew. This is a mother and a daughter witch. They're witches. It's fun. But as you can see, we can see clear differences between the two. We can tell which one's the mom and which one's the kid. And I'm going to be showing you guys not necessarily how to draw these two, but just how we get these differences. So this is the example I wanted to have up for you all. So we're going to be figuring out, how do we do this? So let's get started. I think we can go ahead and get started. And make sure you stick around, because at the end we're going to be doing a Kahoot at the end about color, about some color theory. And I'll drop some little hints and tidbits while we're working on this. So, all right, I think we're ready. Let's get started. Okay. So, hopefully you guys can see all of the contents that I have up on the screen, all the different tools. I'm gonna move the girls over to the right here so you can see my tools. And make sure you pay attention to the layers that we have at the bottom right corner, as you see there. Let me just make the screen a bit bigger. Yeah, it kind of like gets rid of those tools, so I'm gonna keep it where it's at. Oh, did not need to do that. Okay. Right, so layers are at the bottom right. I'm gonna keep the image there though, so that you guys can at least see that. Well, actually, I'll turn the image off for now. All right, great. So, Aggie starts you off with a bunch of layers. These are the different canvases that we're going to be drawing on. That's how it works when you're doing digital art. You get different layers on top of each other. And we're going to start with layer 1. So make sure you double tap on layer 1 so that we can get started there. And just like last time, I'm going to pick a bright color to start off with. I like to sketch in brighter colors. It helps me see things better. So I'm just going to pick any color. You can pick any color you want, but I'm going to start with kind of light blue, a lighter version of the primary color blue. Remember, keep in mind the things I'm saying about colors now. Okay, so I guess everyone here is probably a little bit younger. I think we should start with, how do we draw younger kids? How do we draw little kids? Well, even if I start with that, I guess I do have to show you what's typical. So, when you're drawing people, if you've ever seen it, you might have seen something where you have a breakdown that maybe sort of looks like, this. So, if you've ever been in a drawing class, you might have seen something that kind of starts looking like this, a breakdown of seven circles, which all represent heads. So a circle in drawing usually represents the head. So if I were to draw a head, I'm going to go ahead on layer 2. If I were to draw a very quick head here, This is what we use to measure anatomy. This is what we use to measure the human body, is we use heads. I know it's really silly. We don't use rulers, we use heads. So if I wanted to make an adult, I would want, typically for the adult, to be 7 heads big. So I'm going to make this small so that it just sizes up with my first circle. So this is 1 head. And if I'm drawing an adult here, again, I want their body to reach the 7 head point. So I'm going to just shift my circles. And so if you ever need to move anything on Aggie, the easiest way to do it is you can click on this little box over here, the square you see with the squares at each corner. If you click on that, it'll select whatever is on your layer. And remember, we have multiple layers here. So it selects whatever on your layer, and I can move it around. And if you want to click off on it, you can just click a different tool. It'll go away. I drew my small little head on layer 2 here so that I can keep those separate. But if things are on the same layer, you can click on this little rope tool that has a cursor at the end, the little triangle. You can click on that and draw it around an object. And then once it's drawn around, you see those dots, I can go back and click on that square tool again, and then I can move the individual object if there's multiple things on the same layer. But anyway, let's get back into what we were saying. So I have my head drawn now. And if you see those dots like still in place, just click on the rope tool and then click on the screen. Just tap the screen and it'll go away. And so I know, let me zoom in. I know I have a head now. I know I need a neck. I need a torso. And usually the best way to go about drawing anatomy is that you can measure out different parts of the body. So for example, I know that it's going to take me 2 more heads to get to the waistline of a person or the hip line of a person. So if I bring my head's measurements closer, just a little bit closer, like right there. I know the head is filling up that first head space, and I know my torso is going to come at least 2 more heads further down, including my neck. I want to make sure this is just the right size. I'll make this a bit smaller. Just like that. Okay, great. So now, oh, and by the way, I'm using my pencil tool to draw. We have a brush tool here. Usually you use that to draw more final lines, but we're going to stick with our pencil tool when we're drawing. So, 1, 2, 3. 3 heads, I know that I should at least be at my waist or something of the sort. Maybe I'll make the head measurements a bit larger so it's easier to go by. I know that the 4th head is going to be the hip, the entire hip area. So I have my head, my torso, and I know that entire hip area is going to be 1 head of a measurement. And then I know that the legs take up the rest of our head measurement. Oh, and I forgot one very important thing. Technically, an adult body is 7.5 heads large. So 7 heads should fill up everything from your head all the way down to your ankle. And then I'm going to add 1/2 of a circle. And that's going to be for the feet. And so I have most of the body figured out. I have my head, 1 head long. So I'll do the extra measurements on the side. That's 1, oh, a little large. So my head's 1 head long. I know there's going to be 2 more heads to get down to the very top of the waist. I know for the rest of the waist, it's going to be just one head. So something like that. So this is one, this is two heads, back to one head, and then your legs and all the way down to your feet are going to be 3.5 heads long. So something like this, 3.5 heads long. And if you're wondering, what about the arms? You still have the arms left. When it comes to the arms, you could break the arms up into two different sections. So you have the top part of your arm here. I know that that is going to match up with the halfway point of my torso area. So you have, let me use a different color here for you guys. So if I'm using my other primary color, red, to show you that this is where the top of the hips start. The waist is in between the kind of chest area and your hip area. So if this is my person's chest, the waist is technically somewhere in the middle right here. And the reason why that's important is because when you're trying to figure out where your top half of the arm stops, it stops exactly at the waist. So I'm going to draw my little arms on the side. And I know I need another size, another half of my arm to make the full complete arm. And the lucky thing about that is however long the top half of your arm is, that's exactly how long the bottom half of your arm is as well. I'm drawing these quick little circles. Those are my joints, so how my arm moves. And I'm going to add in my second half of my arms. And now that I have that in, I'm going to add another joint at where I know my wrist is at. And then the cool thing about your hand is that your hand is almost as big as your head. Your hand fits. So if I put the bottom of my hand right at my chin and the top of my finger, it's like right in the middle of the forehead. So it's not entirely as long as the head, but it's almost long. So if I'm using one of my head measurements for reference, like right here, I know if this was the top of the hand, or the bottom of the hand, the top of the hand, probably end around this area. So about that long. So I'll just like take my fingers and measure that out by eye and move it where I know it needs to be. And I think the hand is going to end right there. And so just like that, it's very quick, very rough looking, but just like that, I have a full human body, or at least technically an adult body. This will be the size of an adult body. It will be 7.5 heads long. So that's what people usually do when we're drawing adults, people in general. But what if I want to draw a kid? What if I want to draw someone who's, let's say 10 years old? How do we do that? So I'll show you. On the other side of our drawings here, I'm going to move everything over to the right a little bit. Let's see. Okay, make sure. All right. And sorry, I'm like losing track. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my light blue, my light primary color blue, and I'm going to start drawing on the other side. So the way that this works a bit differently is that if an adult is 7 heads long, I know that a kid is probably a little less longer than an adult. Maybe not quite 7.5, maybe 4 heads. Maybe a kid's only 4 heads long. So I'm going to keep that halfway point that's at the bottom, that half head. We're going to keep that because that's always going to represent the feet. But I'm going to go just 4 heads up. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's good for a 10-year-old. And then I'm going to draw another head at the 4-way mark. And I'm gonna zoom in. Oh, that's the opposite of zooming in. I'm gonna zoom in. And I'm gonna draw my head in here. So this is the base for my head. And it's a little large, so I'm going to make it a bit smaller. So a tad bit smaller. Okay, so that's my head now. And I'm going to draw my neck in. So this is where things get a little bit different. So the measurements for the rest of the body are also going to be a lot different, being that we're starting off at a much lower height. And so how is that going to look? I would say for a kid that is only about 4 heads long, everything is pretty easy actually. I would say that your torso area, so if this is the torso area of our adult friend on the right, that is only going to take up about 1.5 heads on the kid. So maybe cutting their body, and so the legs and the feet are only going to take up about 1.5 heads here. So it kind of divides the kid up pretty easily. He's a lot more evenly divided versus an adult. It's a bit easier to kind of figure out. And so I'm gonna go up to my 3rd layer just so that I make sure that I'm not drawing everything exactly on top of each other. Using my primary color red again. I'm gonna draw in the feet and stuff here. It's a little long. Make sure I'm on the same line. I'm drawing in our little joints for where our shoulders are at. And again, so half of the head is where our feet are at. If I just go 1 head up, I know that's the top of our waistline for the kid, right? So, and I have the top of the torso just another head up. So I know halfway through that is going to be our waistline. So I'm gonna draw the arm about where the waistline is. I'm gonna draw another oval that's about the same size as the top half of the arm. And I'm going to draw hands. That's looking a little long. I don't want that too long. So let's actually go up, not that. Let's go backwards. If you look up, I'm using those arrows, the arrow that's pointing to the left at the top of the screen, but it's the one next to view, not the other one, because as you can see, that turns your canvas, and I do that all the time. But we're gonna go back. Is that as far as I can go? Okay. And I gotta make sure, I'm gonna use my eraser tool to erase away at the bottom half of the arm. So the eraser that's right above this little bucket tool here, right under the brush tool. I'm just going to erase at that a little bit. And this is why it's good making sure that you're using multiple layers, because as you can see, it's not getting rid of the blue that's in the background. But I'm going to go back to my pencil, and I'm going to draw in my circle right at where I know the waist is at. Draw in the bottom half of the arm again, and then the hands. And it's still looking a little long, but it's okay. And if I zoom out, again opposite, but if I zoom out, now I have my kid in here. And as you can see, it's a pretty big difference compared to our adult friend that's on the right. And this is how you easily break down different age groups. Essentially, changing ages of characters that you're drawing is just changing the amount of heads that make up their body. And so, let's say that this is maybe this adult is 30 years old, a lot older than us here, and the kid, we're saying that he's 10. So what do I do if I want to make a 16-year-old? Especially when you're talking about teenagers often are coming closer to their full-grown length. So maybe a teenager is only different from the adult size by maybe a head. Maybe the teenager starts at 6 heads. Maybe they're 6.5 heads long rather than 7.5 heads. So those are the things that you can think about when you are drawing between an adult and a kid. So I just want to know, how are we doing, guys? Okay. So. All right. And feel free to ask questions in the group chat if you have any questions about what am I doing, what are all these numbers. If you missed something, just go ahead and put a comment into the group chat and I'll attempt to answer that for you all. Okay, so now we have our basic measurements figured out for when we're drawing, again, versus a little kid and an adult. Now what if we're drawing different genders? What does that look like? Let's get into the specifications of the anatomy. So I'm going to turn these layers off. I'm going to go up to my layer 4, go back to my light blue. I'm going to zoom out. And now I'm going to draw an adult, but this time let's draw an adult woman, someone who's born as a female and someone who's born as a man. And let's see what that looks like. What's the differences between them? So I'm going to start with the head. I'm going to start with a circle, just like this. I'm going to draw a line down the middle. The point of drawing a line down the middle is to evenly divide up a human's head so that I can know, okay, if I put the eye right here on this side, I know the eye needs to be right here on this side. So you see people do stuff like that all the time, and that really never goes away. You kind of do that no matter how long you're drawing. So I have my line in there, and I'm going to draw a quick, easy, maybe round shape for a girl. These are smaller details that you take into consideration when you're drawing people. Maybe if it's a girl, maybe I know that her head is a bit softer, maybe it's not as hard or as long, or different things like that. Of course, you can always break these rules, but these are just things that you can consider. I'm going to draw her ears in. I'll give her big eyes, big, cute, innocent eyes. Some eyebrows. Draw a place for her nose. And I'm going to give her a quick smile. I'm going to draw her neck in. And there you go. So I'm off to a good start. I got her head in place. I'm going to zoom, or make it a bit smaller just so I know I have enough space for the rest of the body. And so I'm going to zoom in. And alright, so I have my head down. So again, when I'm just drawing on the page and I'm not using a reference, I'll just use my fingers as a measurement. So I'm going to put my fingers up against my drawing here, up against the sides of this head, and I'm going to bring it down one, and then I'm going to bring it down another. And it comes to about right here when I measure it out, or maybe even like right here. And just in case you're wondering, even though I have my neck drawn in here, when you're measuring out how long the torso is, you start your second head measurement right under the chin. So if this is one head, I'm going to start immediately right here, right under that first head, to decide where the end of the torso is. I don't start at the bottom of the neck because then it would kind of put all of our measurements out of whack. And so I'm going to draw in the torso. And so this is where the waist is much more defined, especially when we're drawing women. We can start to see exactly what I was talking about when I say you have your chest area, you have your hips, and then you have the waist, which is in between. So if I go up to another layer, I'm going to use purple this time, the secondary color. And I know that my waist is right there. I know that I would say so. I would say that your chest, if you really want to measure this out, your chest is about the end of the second head. So right here is about where the top of your chest stops. If I want to know where my waist is, I know the waist is between the end of the second head and in the middle, in between that and the bottom of the third head. So this is where I know my waist is. So now that I know my waist is there, let me turn this up a little bit. Okay. So now that I know my waist is there, I know that, especially for a girl, that her chest area is going to start coming in towards the middle, towards where our waist is, and then we're going to go back out. And that's where the top of our hips start. So I'm going to zoom out. And I know that I need at least 3.5 heads more to make the legs. And so I'm just going to measure that out again with my fingers. I'm going to zoom in and go, okay, I know one head is here, another head is here, 2, another head is about here. And see, look, everything's starting to get a bit small. Let me turn this off. Or it's about running out of space, is what I mean. Make that a bit smaller. Like that. And zoom in again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think this head is a bit too big. 6, and then about, this is 7.5 right here. So 4, 5, 6. Oh, I forgot one more head. 7 and 7.5. So this is the start of my waist. I know that the start of the hips. I know the hips take up one full-size head. So actually, I'm gonna go ahead and, I think this comes in a bit too early, which is why it's looking a bit weird. So I would say rather than the waist area being directly halfway between the bottom of head 3 and the top of head 3, I would say that, let me see if I can erase that. That is actually a bit closer to the bottom of our third head, right there. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna draw all that back in. And I know the hips are here. And now then it's time for the legs. See, this can happen very easily. I think our heads are just getting to be a bit long here. So I'm just going to zoom in so I can make sure I'm a bit more precise. So don't be afraid to zoom in when you're doing digital art. It's helpful. So 2, 3, maybe 3 is technically here. 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. And then 5, oh, long tool, pencil tool, and do 6. This is 7. And this is where we got our legs in here. I think maybe the issue is that our head is a little weird. I'm gonna make the head just a bit bigger just so that it fits more into our body that we have here. There you go. So I know this is where, oh, it's not working for some reason. Oh, that's why. And I'm gonna draw my feet in here. And if you ever need to make a new layer, if you're running out of layers like I am right now, make sure you click on, if you look at my cursor, and I'm kind of moving around on the dark part of the screen right now, if you move that over, you'll see this little white rectangle all the way to the right of our screen. right under opacity. I'm going to click on that, and that's going to make a new layer. So now that I have my new layer figured out, I'm going to pick a different color just to distinguish it a bit more from our blue. And I'm going to start dividing the different parts of the body up just a bit easier. So I know I need a top part of the leg, and it comes down about 1.5 inches from the bottom of our waist. Draw in our knees. Draw in the bottom part of the leg, which is about the same size as the top part, and I know my feet again are going to be at 7.5 inches. For a woman, I'm going to draw in her chest at the top. Make this a bit better. I have my joints in for my shoulders. And then again, if this is the start of her hips, right at where her waist is coming in, that's going to be the bottom half of her arms. Draw in these little points, the same size of the bottom arms as the top is. And then I'm going to draw in hands. That would probably be the same, around the same size as her head. And so now we have an adult body again, but this time it's an adult female, just so that it's a bit more clear. Let's see. All right. We want to keep it going. Okay, so move that back over. And now I have my adult woman. And I guess since the other anatomies were a bit more masculine, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna very quickly draw a little girl, just so that we can see again the difference. So I'm gonna keep the head size around this area. I'll go back to blue. A smaller head. Give us our eyes. Ears. Again, it's okay if it looks rough. I'm being rough right now, but that's okay. Little neck. Little girls also have their waists a bit more clear than a little boy's would. And just as easy. See, when you have the adult anatomy a bit to the left, it's a bit easier to figure out. So again, it's a little wonky because of how rough it is, but that's okay, because I'm gonna go over top of it to make it look a bit better. Go back to my pink, and I'm gonna zoom in. Make everything look a bit neater here. Draw in a little ovals for my legs here. Then the joint for the knee, another oval for the bottom. And go back in with the feet. Maybe I'm gonna put the arms out like this. Maybe give him some hair. And there you go. Got a little girl. She's cute. I like her. So it's actually pretty simple. It's very easy to draw, you know, the differences between men and women. But we've done basically the same thing. We have an older adult, and then we have a really little kid. What about a toddler? What would they look like? Again, it's all about the differences of heads. But the thing about someone who's toddler is that usually their head, because it's, you know, the body itself is much smaller, it kind of takes a lot of prominence. So maybe a toddler is only 2 heads long. And maybe, oh, go back to the pencil tool. I'll draw my head in. And also, another thing to consider, the younger the character gets, the bigger their eyes look in their head. So maybe their eyes are taking up a lot of space. And usually when I do toddlers, I kind of leave the circle as the head shape, because it wouldn't be much bigger than that anyway. Drawing a smile. I'm going to make this a bit smaller because I think it's a little too big for us. Make sure it matches up with our measurement. All right. Maybe our neck is very, very small. And usually when I do someone as young as a toddler, I don't even worry too much about the size of their torso because it's kind of all blended in, their legs and their torso. There's a difference, but there's not much of a measurement difference between the two. So I just kind of draw these lines on the side to represent their whole body. I add in their little feet. And maybe their legs go up just a tad bit, maybe the size of an adult's foot. Maybe that's how big it goes up, as you can see here. This is where the line is for the feet. Maybe it just goes up that high. And their arms kind of come out generally at the top of their small little waist. And maybe this is their hair. So if I want to define that a bit more, go ahead and make the eye and everything look a bit better. Add in a little line of a nose. There you go. Got a little toddler boy. So, not that hard, you're just breaking the rules. So we started off with our 7 heads. We broke it down to 4.5 heads long for our 10-year-old little kid. And then if we did a toddler, we just left it at 2 heads. I think it's pretty easy. I will give our adults some hair though, since everyone else seems to have some. Let's do some puff balls and little side bangs here. There you go. Now everybody has hair. There you go. It was pretty easy. I think it's good. All right. So let me know, guys. Do you guys have any questions? How do we draw anything in particular? Any questions? Just go ahead and put it in the chat if there's anything you want to know. Let's see, we have a bit more time left, 20 minutes. If I get more views, I'll go ahead and I'll do the Kahoot that I have planned for the end of our video. But if not, I think I'll just go ahead and keep drawing. So now that we have an understanding of the basic breakdown of human anatomy, how about interesting poses? How do we draw the different age groups in different poses? Let's try that next. I think that sounds fun. So we'll go ahead and turn these layers off. I'm gonna work on a new layer now. And what should my characters be doing? Let me see, what's a fun pose? Maybe they're jumping in the air, throwing a punch, maybe something cool. Maybe The character's having a fun time playing around as they're walking. Let's see what we come up with. Alright, I'm just gonna do anything. Or maybe they're doing ballet or something. Something fun. I'm gonna go ahead and I always start with the head. Remember that when you're drawing a person, always start with the head. It's the easiest thing to remember all the measurements from. Maybe my character is looking up. And that's the other use of those lines. Before, I had the line straight down in the middle. And that's very good for, as I said, breaking down the human face and where everything goes. But maybe when we're turning the character's position in their body, the lines also help us direct the rest, where the head is going to be and where how the rest of the body is going to follow. So I drew my curve to the side and up a little bit on a curve, as if my character is looking upwards. Go ahead and draw in their head here. And draw in their neck. Let's see. I just want to do something goofy. So maybe my character is up on a toe, maybe? Maybe they're doing something silly playing in the house. They're standing on one foot, right on their tippy toes. And maybe they have their other leg up in the air a little bit. And their foot poking out this way. And then maybe their arms, got it coming down. And our other arm is coming up here. Maybe they're playing around like that. Now, when I look at this super quick sketch that I just did, something seems a little off. I think some things are just a tad bit off, but that's okay. It's good to assess. What can I do better now that I have this very rough sketch in? I think this leg that's up here is a bit too large. So I'm gonna make it a bit smaller. Just like that. Make sure that it's about the same size as my other leg, and I do that again by using my finger measurements. And I measure the size of the leg, which is that big to me, and I put it up against the other leg, and now it's about the same size. I think this hand is just a little too big. So we're just gonna do it like that. And now that I have my rough sketch in, and this is about the size of an adult body, so if I measure their head out, I get 1, 2, and I'll show you guys actually how you can measure it out when they're in like interesting positions like this. I know my head is about that big, so I want to make sure it's filling up the same space even as it's turning. So we have 3 heads, which so far is about right. 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's a little small, but maybe they're not a full adult. Maybe they're just like a little bit under age, you know? So right now we have, and let's see how it measures up on the other side. So this will be the second head, or let me make sure that's right. So that'd be 2. Oh, that's the other thing. I didn't actually do them right up against each other, which doesn't help, because I might take away some of our measuring. So you still want them to touch. Maybe everything except for the head, since the head is completely in a different direction. So we have 4 here. Now we're at 5. This is 6. Oh, maybe a bit bigger. Actually, a bit bigger for that. 5, 6, 7, 7.5. I know, it works out now that they're touching. That's the thing, you have to make sure you're not taking up too much of your own space. But, so I think we're pretty good then. I'll make a new layer, go to a blue, darker blue. And I'm start adding in my details. So if this was a girl, I have her chest in now. Make sure her waist is defined. Start drawing in her leg. Gotta make sure the knee is visible. The cool thing is, interesting to know, is that when you're doing something like the knee, make sure you draw your little circle in there, and then the line goes back. Same thing with here, you see the circle for the knee, but then the line goes pushed back past where that circle is. There you go. Drawing little curves for the arm. And what I think the hand will look like. And I'm going to do the same thing over on this side. Sometimes when I'm working on the final line, I start to realize, like, oh, maybe this was a little too big still. So I just make things a bit smaller. And there you go. I would say this is an adult body. Got our measurements pretty much right. And that's how you can use what we just learned to break down the anatomy into doing something super fun and silly. And I'll draw in my eyes here. Add a nose. Actually, draw the eyes closed like this because she's having so much fun. And draw in some hair. Just very quickly draw in the rest of her hair here. And then she says, like, maybe something like, woo! Maybe I could draw a better circle than that. Woo! I still feel like I could draw a better circle. Actually, let's make that a bit smaller. How about we just do, woo! Like that. Okay, maybe more like that. Okay, I'm gonna leave it alone. There you go, you get the point. And she's having fun. It's cute, it's fun. There we go, utilizing what we learned. Just do some super fun, silly stuff here. Let's see. Alright. And now we got that done. Maybe she has her kid playing around with her. Maybe she has a child. And let's draw them next to each other. Let's see, what should the kid be doing? Maybe the kid is off to the side here. So we know they're younger and smaller, so we know they're going to be shorter on the page. And I'm going to draw their head up as well. Maybe they're leaning to the side a bit. Maybe not that far, but their chest is poking out a bit. Maybe it's something like, I know they're trying to raise their leg as well. I'm going to cheat just to make some space. Maybe they look something like that. And I'm going to move them over a bit. So maybe they're right here. right. There you go. So we're going to move another layer to add on our specifics. I'm going to do a blue again. I'll very quickly draw what I think the kid will look like. Well, let's double check our measurements before we do that though. So this is our measurements for the adult. So we have one head for our kid. Let's see how many heads we get in. So that's 3 heads. Let's go 4, 5. Oh, wait. Gotta make sure everything's the same size. So that's about 1 head actually. 1 right here would be about 3. Add another one in. That's 4, 5, about 5.5 heads. So maybe 10, 11, 12-year-old kid is what we're getting right now. Then I'm gonna go ahead with my blue. Or actually, let's make it different colors to red. And they're smiling with their eyes closed, super happy too. They have big smiles. Blushing a bit because they're so happy. Actually, why don't we make this kid a boy so she has a son? Or maybe they're brother and sister. You know, they could be anything. Whatever you imagine, that's what they are. I got my feet in. See, I feel like the arms were a little too short here. So make sure their hands aren't too big. And we're going to finish up with the other arm here. There you go. Drawing some hair. And now we have 2 people in here. And we're going to give him a yay. Because they're having so much fun. I think it looks great. How are we doing, guys? What? Sorry guys, I'm just having an issue here. Okay. Alright. Tell me how you guys think. What are you guys doing? Do we have any questions? Anything else that we want to know? I think we did a good job here. I think we kind of all have it breaking down. So let's just go over real quick what we went through. So we have drawing the figure with 7 heads. That's how we start off when we're drawing adults. And then we move on when we're doing kids. Maybe we're doing something like 4 heads, 5 heads, 6 heads even. Maybe if they're an older teenager, and if they're a toddler, maybe they're just 2 heads long. Things like that. Those are things that you consider. And you can do the same thing with animals too. You still go by heads. That's how you break down anything that's living, really. Because you break it down by heads. But as you can see, it's not difficult. It's no, confusing thing when you're drawing different age groups. It's just all about coming down to our wonderful measurement of heads. And that's one of the things that you consider. And if you're here for me next week, I will be doing how to draw animals too. So you'll be seeing some of this information come back up. So just keep that in mind. But I think we are coming to an end of our program today. I hope everyone enjoyed. I hope you had a good time. I hope you learned more using Aggie, and I will continue to be using Aggie for all of us. So now that I'm done, just don't forget that I will have these quick drawings that I just did linked in to the video. So if you want to draw with me or you want to do something similar, just to get a good look at how it was done, I'm going to be putting the images that I just did in the description for you guys to check out. But with that, I think we're coming to an end, guys. So I will see you guys next week if you're here. And yeah, come back to CodeSpeak Labs if you want to learn more. All right. Well, bye guys.